Okay, so I think we are all here. And I will just, this is kind of when I'll officially start the class. So welcome everyone. My name is Ankita Stopa and I am the team leader based in Canary Wharf for a wonderful team of advisors in and around, historically it used to be just East London, but we have now with COVID and lockdown, so many changes have happened. We've gone remote for classes, remote for recruitment, which is also remote learning, and which means we've managed to expand the team all over. There's more people joining. East London, North London, South London, and Essex. And one of the very exciting things for me as a Thermomix owner and advisor now for 12 years is to really see the Thermomix love grow, and also the recruitment opportunity for people to join Thermomix, either by earning on our Earn and Demonstrate program, or most recently, and in fact last month, we actually initiated an owners program, which meant that if you already owned a Thermomix TM6, you were given the opportunity to join the team and promote it and hopefully make sales from there. And I'm really, really pleased to say that both the advisors who are running this class today are our two first advisors on our team who are owners. They both happen to be chefs, professional chefs, and have used the Thermomix, not just the TM6, but the previous models in their professional industry. And I jumped on the bandwagon and recruited them really quickly. And I want to say they've been really up for it, because considering they are both brand new advisors, literally in the last 3 weeks, the fact that they have stepped up and running a class, I just think is wonderful. So be kind to them. And it's also why
we
today...
like a challenge, Ankita. We like a challenge. It's so good.
I know, but you know, it's your first class. Let's be fair. What I'm going to be doing is I will be answering any of the questions. There's also a chat box, so if you do have any questions, feel free to use the chat, and I can answer, or I can then approach David and Richard for that. And yes, let's have a great class. I think we have timed it that we'll be done in an hour, under an hour. And the only bad thing about the virtual classes, you can't taste the food, but I'm putting this out there. David lives across the road from me, so I'm hoping for some of that laksa paste on my doorstep later. No pressure.
Yeah, that's not a problem, Ankita. That can be done.
Great. All right. So introducing David, and over to you. Feel free to give us a background and laksa paste. Go
okay, thank you very much, Ankita. So good morning, guys. As Ankita said, my name's David. I am a professional chef. I'm doing this dish for you today as something I've looked for laksa on the cookie dough. It does have laksa recipes, but I found that this is obviously a recipe of our own that I use within my trade, and it's a brilliant flavour, very easy to do, and with the Thermomix it makes it even easier. So I'm going to run through with you today. So we're going to start off by making the paste itself. So make sure my machine doesn't turn off. So first off, we're going to weigh out into our machine 100 grams of veg oil. And there we go. Ooh, nearly. Okay. And then I've got 300 grams of onions that I've just peeled and quartered. Yeah, 305, that's fine. 8 cloves of garlic, again, just peeled. A knob of ginger, just again peeled and roughly chopped. So I've got 15 Kashmiri chilies. They're dried chilies that I've pre-soaked for about half an hour, just to soften them up, and then you pull the stem out of it. They go in. Fresh red chilies. And these are all my spices. So we've got ground coriander, which is 3 tablespoons. Chili powder. Cumin. And turmeric. And then we're going to finish off with our shrimp paste. 50 grams of shrimp paste. Now you can use fish sauce if you can't get shrimp paste, but there are so many Asian stores and stuff around there. Otherwise, Amazon, that's where I got mine from. So that will go in. And then lid goes on. Measuring cup in place. Take that, sorry. And then we're going to do 10 seconds on speed 10. Okay, so as you can see, lovely paste. I would always just advise us to give it a little scrape down around the sides and then give it another couple of seconds just to make sure you've got all the lovely powders and everything from around the edges. So again, I'm just going to give it a quick 5 seconds, 10 again. So from here, I would now set this to, I would put this on a timer for half an hour. On 100 degrees, I would remove the measuring cup from the lid and then cook that on a speed 1 for about half an hour. And that will just keep stirring this paste, cook out all those lovely flavors and aromats. And then at the end of that, that will become a lovely dark red brown. I will show you now. I've got one I made earlier. Obviously, we haven't got half an hour to just watch me cook that out. But remember, guys, remove the measuring cup from the lid. It helps to take out the extra moisture from the onions and stuff when you've blended them. Okay, so I'm just going to remove all this paste. See, at the moment you can see it's that lovely orangey colour. This will change dramatically once you cook all those spices out. So let's give this one a little take out.
And David, can you just tell us why, you know, it's beneficial to be making fresh pastes in the Thermomix, whether that's a laksa or a Thai green curry or a chicken tikka paste?
You know, I would bring you to a simple phrase that I was taught when I was a commis chef, God knows how many years ago now. My oldest head chef used to say to me, the three symbol letters, FIB, fresh is best. I mean, nowadays you can get produce so easily. There's no reason, and because you have machines like Thermomix, there's no reason really to be buying shop bought stuff anymore. You know, I mean, yes, they say it's from ease, but as you've just seen, I've just made that all in about 20 seconds. So realistically, I don't see why you shouldn't be making your own fresh paste, and you get so much better flavour, less preservatives, much better for you, and you know what's going into your food. You know, you're not buying it from a shop and you don't know what's going in. Let me just give this a quick little rinse out.
Perfect. And can I just ask, are all of us Thermomix owners, or do we have anyone who isn't a Thermomix owner? And, you know, feel free to use the chat to also tell us which model do you have, whether it's the TM31, TM5, TM6, or yet to buy, because that will also help us be able to direct our questions as well.
Okay, so just give my little rinse. Okay, so having a little blue pizza moment. Here's some that I made earlier. So I don't know if you can see it if I move the camera down. So you can see all that lovely oil is separated off, and you see the lovely dark red sort of brown colour this has turned. All right, so that's what it will be looking like after the half an hour of cooking. And you can see it's not as wet as the original one because you've removed the lid. You've let all the extra moisture come out from the onions and the chilies, and you've got a nice thick paste. Okay, so what I'm going to do.
David, I've just got a question for you from Ruju. She's saying she's a vegetarian. Is there a substitute for the shrimps?
Yes,
and
you
also
can get
vegan.
You can get vegetarian fish sauce. Vegans, I don't know if they do a vegan fish sauce. I'm not sure the ingredients of the vegetarian. I can't see why it wouldn't be vegan, to be honest with you. I can't see what would be in there that is, if it's vegetarian, that wouldn't be vegan. So that's a good question with the vegan one. I'd have to check that myself. I've never been asked that one.
I can probably quickly Google it. I do think you're right. If it's vegetarian, I think there's a vegan version of. I
can't see what would be in the fish sauce as vegetarian that wouldn't make it vegan, if you see what I mean. So obviously if they're removing the fish already, then I can't see what else they would put in there that wouldn't be vegan. So for the recipe for this paste, the recipe makes 6 broths. I'm going to reduce this down by half. I'm going to make it 3 because I'm going to have it for lunch with my fiance and my housemate. So I'm just going to measure out half of this paste. So now I've got. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, so this half of the paste is going to go straight in. My thermomix. Okay. And then I'm going to put, along with that, I'm going to put 1 tin of coconut milk. And 750 mils of chicken stock. Oh, slightly less. It's not a problem. Let's grab my chicken stock. There we go. Wonderful. So this is where we're also going to infuse some of our lovely aromats. So I'm going to insert the steamer basket inside it. And I'm going to put my smashed my smashed lemongrass stick. It's going to go inside, along with my fresh coriander. So that's going to go on. And then we're going to put it on 100 degrees for 15 minutes. And that's just going to infuse those lovely citrus from the lemongrass and the aromats from the coriander. I'm going to put it on speed 1. So while that's infusing, I'm going to take it over to Richard, I think, now, are we, Ankita?
Yes, but I was just going to ask you a question. I know you said your paste makes 6 portions and you've halved it.
Yes.
How long will that paste last if, you know, for example, if I double the quantities or
if you've got that covered with the oil over the top of it, I mean, you can add a little bit of oil just to cover it, just completely submerge it. And a sealed kiln the jar, I can't see it for at least 2 weeks.
And is that in the fridge or
in the fridge? Yeah, in the fridge.
In the fridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I personally have never frozen it, but I can't see again why, if you want to then break it down into smaller batches and then freeze some of it, I can't see why that wouldn't work, to be honest. I personally haven't done it, but I can't see why it wouldn't.
Okay, because I'm one of those make these type of pastes in bulk.
Yeah.
So even though, you know, even with the half an hour that you have some, I regularly, there's a chicken tikka paste which makes about 1 litre, and I keep that in my fridge. And again, in my household, it doesn't last very long, but at least it lasts about 2 months in the fridge. But okay, good to know. Good to know.
No worries.
Right, Richard.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. So today I'm doing something quite simple. I'm going to be making some gyoza dumplings for you. I've chosen to do this dish. I think it's one of those sort of dishes that shows so many of the features that the Thermomix has and the ease of use of the Thermomix. But also, it's a great dish because it can be used for so many different things. You know, I'm going to show you basically a base recipe. But the beauty of this is you can literally alternate most of the ingredients. As long as you've got some key ingredients in there, you can alternate loads of them to actually do whatever you want. We're going to do this in 3 stages. We're going to make a gyoza dough for the actual skins. We're then going to make a chicken filling for today. And then I'm going to show you how to put them together and then give you a few options of cooking them. So super, super simple to begin. Obviously, the dough is actually a lot easier than a lot of people think. A lot of people see sort of you know, especially with Asian bakery products. I think even the steamed buns, they're actually quite easy to make, especially when you've got the Thermomix. So to start, you're going to need 270 grams of flour. I'm using dumpling flour. It's slightly more glutinous and slightly finer when it's been milled. But you can, if you wanted, you could use a strong white bread flour. It will do a very, very similar job. And literally into that.
Oh, sorry. So, Richard, where can we buy dumpling flour? That's a new one.
Dumpling flour, any Asian store. Like David just said, you know, there's so many Asian stores. You can get it on Amazon as well. Super simple. And to be honest, I actually got this from my local Tesco's. Has a really big Asian. I also actually got this from Tesco's. But you will be able to very easily find it on supermarkets, on Amazon, or you can obviously look at any local Asian supermarket you've got near you. But it's not imperative. Like I say, you can just use a strong white bread flour if you wanted to. They're fairly interchangeable. I just like it. I just feel like it gives you a slightly glossier look to the actual dough once it's actually been mixed, and it's slightly more pliable. It's slightly easier to work with once it comes to the rolling, which is possibly, if any of it's difficult, that's the slightly more complicated bit of it. But no, super simple.
So I was just going to ask, because I have like 6 flours in my house, and I'm sure many of our Thermomix users do as well. Because I even have a pizza flour. Is that closer to a dumpling flour than bread flour?
To be honest, bread flour is probably as close. Do you know what you could probably do if you really wanted to with the bread flour? You could actually put it into the Thermomix first on like speed sort of 8, 9, 10, somewhere like that, and just blitz it down even finer. Because that's the, I mean, you definitely won't be able to see it on the camera. But that's kind of the difference is how fine this flour is. It's just, you know, it's very, very light. It's very, very fine. That is the biggest difference between this and bread flour. Basically, is
okay. So
look at them. I mean, here you go. There's bread flour.
Yeah.
And there's I mean, like I said, I don't think on camera you'll be able to see the difference too much. Luckily, because of my lighting, maybe one looks slightly darker, but that's only look at the camera. But yeah,
okay.
You can definitely interchange them, and I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, I've done it with both, because obviously with the dumpling flour, unless you're buying it in big bulk, like we would in restaurants, then this is, there you go, that's how it comes. Dumpling flour. It comes in nice little bags like that, but they are probably slightly more expensive than your normal flour. So
no, perfect. I mean, I think most of us go to Chinese supermarkets or Asian supermarkets, but it's always good to know. First time I've ever heard of dumpling flour, but yes, you're totally right. We can mill it. Otherwise, we can just get it. Great. Thank you. I'm just asking the questions for me. And I'm sure other people were thinking that too.
No, not a problem. And please do shout out, guys, at any time. You know, I've done quite a lot of these in lockdown, so I'm quite happy to answer questions as we go. And this is a very, very, very simple recipe. So into that, we've just got a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. That is all that goes into there. And then all of that goes into the TM6, into the Thermomix just there. Into that, you've got 180 grams. Now, I'm a bit weird like this. I like to do everything in grams, just because I think it is easier from a weight point of view. Like, so I like weigh our eggs in grams when I've got them in recipes, just because I think it's more accurate that way. But obviously, whichever way you find the easiest is up to you. It would be 180 grams is approximately 180 milliliters of water in this respect. Obviously, if it's a slightly more, if it's a slightly thicker liquid, it can alter a little bit. So just to weigh that out, obviously on the scales, and you're going to go to 180 of cold water. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have cheated because I've already weighed it out. But, you know, we're doing this Blue Peter style, aren't we? So, like David said. Okay, so that's literally going to go on. And obviously, one of the new features that I absolutely love. So, normally, I've always worked with the TM5. And obviously, now as an owner, I've got the TM6. And one of the features that I absolutely love on it is the dough feature, is the fact that you can actually knead your doughs and things in this. And I think it's so accurate compared to other products that are on the market. The Thermomix is far more accurate at actually ensuring that every single time you're getting a consistent kneading of the product, because of the fact that you've not got to go, oh, does it look right? It's the Thermomix knows that it's right. So that's going to go on. It's approximately a minute. You don't want to overknead this too much, just because of the way that the speed that it works, and because of the amount of gluten, you're actually going to let it rest quite a bit after it's come out. So we're just going to leave that kneading away, and then it's going to, I can just show you what it comes out as. Here's one I made earlier.
We're doing a lot of Blue Peter style. I just want to ask, do we have Blue Peter badges, guys?
Sorry?
Did you have Blue Peter badges?
No, do you know what? I always wanted one. I never got one. But you can possibly see it's quite sticky, but super pliable. This I made this morning, about 8 o'clock this morning. I made this, and it's now pretty much ready to go. So really super simple. Let me just see if we can get away with this. Okay, I'm stopping this slightly earlier because I feel like you guys have got much better things to do than watch the Thermomix work away, and that's far close enough to what we need. So as you can see, after literally 30 seconds, it's already looking like that, and that will all come together. And unlike most doughs where you do need to worry about it actually kneading properly, this is not one of them where you need to worry too much. It just needs to combine together and produce a dough. So that will obviously come out like this. You just bring it all together, and it's pretty much exactly, so that is after a couple of 3 hours in the fridge, and that's as it goes into the fridge. So you can see it's going to really relax and form a proper dough. So that all comes out of the, and it's quite a clean dough. So it's not like some, I don't know if other people have tried some of the other recipes. There's quite a lot of recipes that I've done where you end up with the dough all stuck inside, but that's pretty clean. It's just going to need a slight wipe out before we do the next stage. Are you wanting me to do the next stage, David, or are you wanting to jump back on now, mate?
No, you carry on, mate.
Okay, perfect. No worries. Okay, wonderful. I just needed to know timing. Sorry. So that just goes into your fridge, and like I say, an hour minimum, but it can rest in there for up to 2, 3, 4 hours. The thing you don't want to let it do is you don't want to leave it in there overnight, because it is going to start to harden up, and then you're going to need to let it come back to room temperature. So just be aware of that. If you do make it the day before, you do want to leave it in there. It is fine. It will last, the dough, once you've made it, will last 3 or 4 days. But obviously, just be aware of having to leave it a little bit longer once it's actually, once you've taken it out, just to come up to room temperature. Now, a very, very quick wash out, because there's nothing bad in here. Now, I know that we've already had the question about vegetarian, vegan versions of this. So obviously, the dough is completely vegan. You've got no issues there. Pretty much every ingredient, apart from the chicken I'm going to use, is also is vegan, vegetarian. So the only thing I would say is I'm going to make this with chicken, this next part of the dish. If you wanted to make it vegetarian, at this point, I would either cook down some sweet potato, I would saute off some mushrooms, or I would roast off some celeriac. And all three of those, and this is what is amazing about this dish, is you can literally use any three of those interchangeable instead of the chicken. Obviously, with the sweet potato and the celeriac, you're going to need to cook them down. So obviously, you could just literally put them into the Thermomix on speed 10, grate them down into a fine sort of grate, a little bit of oil in there, a little bit of stock, and just cook that, I would imagine, on about 100 degrees for about 10 minutes, and just so it just starts to soften, so that you've actually got a paste. And obviously let that cool before you carry on. With the chicken, we're actually going to cook that from raw, because that will cook when we actually put it into the gyoza wrappers. So the ingredients.
Sorry, David. What about? Sorry, Richard. What about tofu? Is that
absolutely? Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, I must admit, tofu is not something I've used a huge amount, but you could definitely do that. You could definitely put the tofu in, and then that would be exactly like putting chicken in, or even seitan. I know there's some amazing recipes out there for seitan, so if you do like that as well, you could definitely use any product you would like, any meat substitute product, you could definitely use. And that's the beauty of this. I mean, I'm using chicken today, but you could do this exact same recipe with beef. You could do it with lamb. You could do it with pork. anything. It's so interchangeable, and that's the great thing about this dish. Is it's just about what your preferences are, and it's also a great one when you've got a fridge full of bits and pieces and you want to make something. This is a great dish for that as well. So to go over the ingredients we're going to need. So we've got some, I'm going to be using, like I said, I'm going to be using some chicken thighs. Got some chicken thighs just there. We've got some cabbage. So you could use some bok choy if you wanted, or some any Chinese leaves. We've got some soy sauce. I've got some sesame oil. I don't think you can quite see that. And then we've got spring onions, a little garlic, and a little peeled ginger. And you can just leave them whole, because obviously, as we know, the Thermomix will do all the work for us, make it nice and easy. And then just your dry ingredients, you've got some salt, some pepper, and some chili flakes. Again, this is a very basic recipe. If you wanted to, you can do so much with this. You can put a bit of miso paste in there if you wanted to give it that umami sort of flavor. If you wanted to, you could put, you wanted to give it a little bit of a different kind of different flavor to it, you could put some cumin or some coriander powder in there as well to give it a little more Asian twist. Some people like to use Chinese 5-spice powder. Feel free to put that in as well. Any flavors you're going to put in, I would put probably about a teaspoon of whatever you're going to do. So this recipe, we're going to be using 500 grams of our protein, but obviously just replace that with anything you want. And once we've actually made this, we're going to make basically a chicken paste. Depending on what you want to do, if you want to make the gyoza, great. If at that point you are wanting to do something else, this is going to be great for making a kebab. You can make a proper shish kebab with this. You could turn it into meatballs. You can do loads of other things with it. Make some nice little pittas or something for the weekend. So you don't have to take it all the way. You don't need to make the gyoza element of it. You could just make the filling element. You could even, if you really want to be fancy, make some Asian-inspired sausages at the end of all this. So yeah, so super simple. Again, I try and keep everything nice and easy. So the first thing to go in is our cabbage, because that's obviously a little bit harder. So that's going to go into the Thermomix, and we'll do our usual kind of about 10 seconds at 10. So it's a little bit noisy, and that's about it. It should now have, hopefully, if it's worked. Yeah, absolutely. Look at that. We've got that grated cabbage down to nothing. I mean, there is not, I don't think there's another piece of kit on the market that can produce that so quickly. That's why we love it in the kitchens. So the chicken's going to go in next, and we just pop the chicken on top of that. Okay, and again, we're just going to give that a quick blitz. Now, again, with the chicken, if you wanted to, you could actually, here it's all about texture. So because we're going to make gyoza with it, we want it to be like a paste. We want it to be quite loose and quite like a puree. Not too thin though. If we were to use this for other things, you might want to just take it a little bit less. So it's a little chunkier, it's got a little bit more texture to it, and just depends on how you want to actually use the product.
So Richard, what speed did you do that on for the chicken?
10
oh, at 10 again. Okay.
Just for a few seconds, nice and quick, and then obviously just scrape the bowl down. But as you can see, the chicken is straight away into that kind of paste-like solution. Okay, so that all goes in like that, and we just push it all down. And then it's just a case of, and this is why it's so simple, it's just a case of putting all the rest of the ingredients in. So you've got your ginger, that just goes in, 3 cloves of garlic. We've got 1.5 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of sesame seed oil, a teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of pepper, and a teaspoon of chili flakes. Now we've then got our spring onions, just the green tips. You just want the green tips, so just a little bit of colour in there as well. That all goes in, and this time I would start it off a little bit slower and then bring up the speed. So I started that at 4. Just keep an eye on it. speed 4. That's just kind of blitzing it and mixing it. We're going to take it up to 10 just to make sure all the spring onions are chopped.
Now, it's really interesting. Many of us, I mean, most of us here seem to be TM5, TM6 owners. And the purpose of today is that we're actually showing you manual cooking. So can I ask, you know, I know some people are you know, there's caterers. Hello, Elaine. You must be doing some of these pastes all the time. So I know we have some very experienced customers here, but for people who I don't know, are you doing a lot of manual non-cookie dough recipes? Feel free to unmute.
I don't quite know what you mean. You mean just taking a recipe and using the cookie dough, using it occasionally?
No, like, so when I mean manual recipe, so cookie dough is obviously when it's guided cooking. But manual recipe is, you know, actually programming it, or, I mean, you can't see my house, but I'm just gonna, I have cookbooks galore everywhere in my house, and I'm very used to adapting, you know, non-Thermomix recipes, you know, whether that's ottolenghi, which is my favorite. I love ottolenghi at the moment, but, you know, pretty much anything, and then converting them, which is why we're then showing you how to use manual settings.
Yeah. No, I have lots of cookbooks too, and lots of recipes cut out of magazines. And yes, the Alaska paste, I've got a recipe for a curry, which again has the similar, so I always do that in the Thermomix first, and then but then I proceed to cook the rest of it in a pan. So I just use it to make the paste. So I'm interested to see how to do the whole thing in there.
Yeah, it's, I mean, when you're cooking the paste, you are, like Richard said, it's, you know, for this particular laksa, it was half an hour. When I make the chicken paste, it's chicken tikka paste, it's like at least an hour, sometimes an hour and a half to release it. It's actually why, obviously, if you want your Thermomix to be doing other things, you're obviously keeping it for 1.5 hours, which is why the Friend, which was just released this week, is a nice add-on, because you could actually put your bowl onto the Friend and let it cook for 1.5 hours and still releasing your Thermomix to do other things. I had a Malaysian friend and customer who used to do Saturday markets. And one of her objects for actually buying the Thermomix was, could she make her pastes in bulk and cook them out in the Thermomix? So I remember her coming to my house and dumping everything in. And, you know, we sat around chatting for 2 hours, because the reason sometimes, depending on what the ingredients are, it does take, you know, hers took 2 hours to cook. And release all of those flavors until it created the oil. So yeah, Elaine, it might be worth trying to cook it in your Thermomix. Sorry, Richard, back to you.
No problem at all. Absolutely, no. I think it's. I must admit, I've seen the Friend. It looks incredible. I think it's a really useful addition to what is already so fantastic. But yes, so basically after approximately about 30 seconds to a minute, you should have a paste that looks something like this. Obviously, if you use beef in it, it will be a little bit darker. Pork will be a similar sort of color as this. Lamb, again, will be a little bit darker. And you just want to take that out of the Thermomix, and that is ready to go. Once it looks like that, that is now ready for you to use. It should, you want to see a little bit of texture. You might see a few slightly larger lumps in there. I think that's great because it just adds a little bit of texture to the actual dumpling. So that's all out of there now. Put that on the side. Okay, so that is what you're kind of looking for just there. So we're now going to, David, are you ready, or do you want me to carry on?
I can jump in just to show how we're finishing this off if you want, just before.
Not a problem at all, mate. Yeah, feel free.
So
over to David.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so obviously my Thermomix has gone off now. That was my 15 minutes, and obviously so that's been infusing all my lovely aromats inside here. So again, as Ankita said, unfortunately you can't smell it. Ankita, you probably will get to smell it because I will come around. I've got loads of paste now because I've done this. I did another class with other people, so I will come and drop around some to your house later. So I'm going to remove the basket with my aromats in. Obviously, with our lovely spatula with the hook. And then, so, wow, see if I can take that out to show you briefly. 1 second, let's see if I can get this down here. There we go. So you can see this lovely bright orange paste here, broth here. The smells in here are absolutely amazing. Again, unfortunately, we haven't got that far in technology, you can smell it yet. So from here, I'm going to go back to my scales. And I'm going to add some palm sugar. Spoon. So I'm going to add 45 grams of palm sugar. Okay. And then I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of tamarind paste. Now, obviously, those of you who haven't used tamarind paste before, you can buy it in blocks from the supermarket. I have bought this in my house down the road in a block. So I have soaked that in hot water, in boiling water for half an hour first. And then I've pushed it through a fine sieve just to get all those extra stones and stuff out of it. So then you'll have a lovely tamarind paste. You can buy the paste though, it's perfectly fine. If you can't find it, you can use brown sugar and lime juice as a sort of as an alternative. So here we're going for 1.5 tablespoons of that. This will give it a nice sweet yet sour flavour to the dish. And then from there, I'm going to add my proteins. Now, obviously, as we said before, with vegetarian, vegan, obviously, yeah, tofu. If you're going to do it, I would advise frying the tofu first. And also I would put it in pretty much only about 5 minutes before the end. I wouldn't put it in for the full 15 minutes like I'm going to do with this protein, because it would just get overcooked and it won't be very nice. So I'm going to put my chicken in. Again, you can use fish, prawns, whatever. I did do this with a nice cod. If you're going to do it with fish, I'd do it with a meaty fish like a cod or a hake. If you're that extravagant, you can get monkfish, who knows? Don't know how extravagant you are at home. Okay, so I put that in without the basket. I put all that all in and put my lid back on. So timer, 15 minutes again. Up to 100 degrees. So I'm going to reverse the blade. Make sure I don't mash the chicken up. All right, because here all we're doing is we're cooking out the chicken, melting down the tamarind paste and the sugars, and then finishing getting all that lovely flavours to infuse to finish off the dish. All right, so I'm going to put that on a 0.5 on a reverse blade and leave that to cook out the proteins. All right, so Richard, ready back to you, mate?
Hey, back to me. Excellent, just in time. Okay, so I'm just thinking, should I move the camera a little bit? Could all go horribly wrong at this point, but maybe this is better. Kind of, maybe not. Well, we'll try our best here. Okay, so
yeah, we can see you, Richard. That's a good view.
So we've got the dough, as you saw, out of the fridge. I've just given it probably 15 minutes just to slightly loosen up, because obviously it does become quite tight in the fridge. And all you're going to do is you can do this in 2 different ways. So the traditional way is you pull a piece. So actually, I was very lucky to go to Hong Kong a few years ago and actually went to a dumpling making class. And there they kind of take the dough and they pull it out, and they pull it out into like a log. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and definitely these people have done this for years and years and years to train to do this. I feel it's easier probably just to cut yourself a cylinder off the side of the actual dough, and you're going to want to cut that into approximately one centimeter pieces. If you want to get really, really technical about it, you're probably looking for about a 15 gram little piece, just like that. Now, if you're making these as, like I said, the dough will probably last approximately 3 to 4 days in the fridge. You can freeze the dough, and I have frozen the dough before today, because obviously you can do it in much bigger batches as well. The recipe multiplies really, really easily. But once you've got your little piece of dough, you want to just turn that into a ball, really simply, and then you want to kind of push it down into a little sort of 50p piece kind of shape, like so, or size, should I say. Now, again, if you wanted to do this traditionally, you would then start pulling it out, and as you're slowly pulling it out, it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner until you get to the size that you want it to do. So just keep pulling it out. Oh, and here's one I prepared earlier. No, I'm just joking. You can then just roll it out. It is a little bit easier, and just keep, as you're rolling it, you just keep moving it around. You want a little bit of flour on the board. Now, the one thing I did find that a lot of people do with this is they make it a little bit too thin. And because you are obviously putting a slightly wet filling inside this, it is going to make it less durable. So you do need to. It's not super paper thin. It's not like you're making a sort of with phyllo pastry where you've got that really thin pastry layer. You want this to be slightly thicker, and it's super simple. Now, that is kind of the thickness you're looking for. You know, it is quite thin still, but it's not see-through. If everyone can see that. Now you've got two options here, so you can either leave it like that if you're happy with it to be like that. If you wanted, just to make it a little bit neater, and this is probably the chefy bit of me coming out, I do tend to cut them with a ring cutter, just so you get a perfect gyoza wrapper, just like that. Now, I recommend not, once you've rolled it, its shelf life is, its sort of lifespan is a lot shorter, and it will start to dry out. As soon as you start to roll this, much like most pastries, it's going to start to dry out. And as it dries out, it becomes more brittle. So you need to work fairly quickly with this bit. In that respect, I would then recommend that you put it under a damp tea towel, the actual piece like this. Keep this under a nice damp tea towel. And then as you're rolling out your wrappers, just put a piece of greaseproof between each layer, so you've got them like that. And then as you're piling them up, you can just put one on top of the other, and then cling film that, so that's just protecting it from the air. And that's just, like I say, it's, to be fair, if you're only making a few at home, then you'll probably be absolutely fine. It's just if you start wanting to make for a whole family, and you're maybe, I mean, obviously I'm a bit of a fatty, so I do like about 10 or 15 of these on my own. But if you're making them for a whole family, you might want to make sort of 30 of them or so, and it will take a little bit of time for that process. So to fill, now there's two options when it comes to filling. The first option is these little kits. Now I quite like making these sort of things, so I make quite a lot of them. Sometimes I want to make them really pretty and spend a lot of time. Sometimes they're just for me, so I don't mind. But to make this process, I'm going to show you how to do them by hand now, but to make this process a little bit easier, you can get a little gyoza press like this. Super, super cheap. You can, again, get them on Amazon. I actually got this from the local Chinese supermarket. I think it was £1.99. And it comes with a measuring spoon, so it kind of gives you an idea of how much should be going into the wrapper, and then a little press for the actual gyoza that actually puts the kind of finish on the top of them for you. So you can do that. Today, I'm just going to show you how to do it by hand. Okay, so for this bit, you're going to need a spoon, and you're going to need some water, just in any sort of little cup, and obviously your filling mixture. I keep the spoon in the cold water just because it helps the filling not stick to the spoon, which is really, really important, because obviously, you know, when you've got it, once you've got it in your hand, you're not going to be able to kind of start moving it around, and it'd be nice if it just slides off. So fingers crossed, obviously, you know, for camera, it should just, in theory, slide off like that, and you've got a completely clean spoon, and you've got approximately 1 teaspoon of the mixture just in the wrapper, just like so. Little spot on your finger of the water, and you're going to take that half the way round the actual wrapper, You can do the whole thing, but you've got here. It's really, really important not to get it too wet. If it gets too wet, it becomes really, really hard to work with and just becomes a bit of a mess. Now, again, if you were going to use something like this, you would then put the wrapper in. You would have put the wrapper into there and put it in. But for today, I will just show you just like this. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. Again, these sort of masters can do this, and they do it all in one hand, and it looks incredible, and they make these beautiful YouTube videos. I have done this many, many times. I'm still not at that level, but I can just about make them look pretty. So my technique for you guys is you just fold it over into a half moon shape, just like so. You can see that, and you want to push the sides together. And what you're trying to do here is really, really important, is you want to get rid of all that air that's inside there. You don't want to trap any air inside the actual dumpling, because that is, air is bad in this situation. And then if you just kind of push it down on a surface, so you've got a little bottom to it. And then you're going to pinch the sides. Now that is a perfectly good dumpling. You could use that, carry on, no problem at all. If you want to make it look a little bit more fun, a little bit bougie, you know, you're trying to impress somebody, you know, hot date or whatever, when we're allowed back together, you're going to fold these just like this. You're going to basically pinch the edges together and just fold it like so. Pinch the edge together, fold it like so. I don't know, maybe if I do it this way around, it's easier as well. So you're going to pinch it again like this. So you're getting these little, now officially there's loads of different designs of these gyoza, and some of them have religious meanings, some of them have, some of them are depending on what's the filling. I like to do a very simple gyoza just like this, and as you can see, you've got that lovely wave effect like that. And then when you've done a few more, you have a whole plate full. Would you like me to show you one more, or is everybody okay with that?
I'd love to see that, because I have to say, I think we might have to have a little competition between the customers on this class today and get some pictures of theirs, because
that would be lovely.
To say,
I would love that. And lots of different recipes. Like I say, it's super simple. There's so many different things you can do with this. It's such a, like I say, I have before today, I put this onto a skewer, and I've done this in a little pan. Where you're just cooking it off, and then you can use that inside a pita bread, or you could use that inside a, you could even make a burger patty out of it and make it like an Asian inspired burger. I mean, it is that sort of easy to use, and it's like you would use mince, but just like an Asian inspired mince. So again, you know, we've got rid of all the air outside, and then you're just pinching the sides together like so. And there we have our little gyoza. Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
Well,
so we have a question here from someone, and I just saw that. I saw it and then it disappeared. It's I think it was about if you're using the cutter, and then it disappeared. Gabriella, was that you who asked the question? Feel free to turn on your mic.
Yes, it was. I've got the. I used to teach cooking, so my Japanese students bought me a couple of the shapers. I've never used them. Do I need to prep the shaper in any way? Put flour so it doesn't stick?
Do you know what? It's genuinely very much about how, for me, how wet the dough is. So sometimes if your dough is a little bit wetter, I mean, obviously when you're making everything from scratch, there is obviously variances with the different types of dough, even if you use the same recipe. So for example, this dough, I don't think it would stick because of the fact that it does feel a little bit pliable. In fact, should we just do one? Should we give it a go? I'll pop it in there just like that. But I have on occasion, I've floured them just to give them a little bit of flour. I wouldn't think, you know, using any sort of Tresemme sprays or anything like that, because obviously we do have like the Tresemme sprays, which can obviously stop things from sticking to pans. I wouldn't use that on this because you don't want to add more moisture, but you also don't want to add too much flour either. So if you can get away with not doing it, I would recommend that. But obviously, it definitely depends on on how your dough feels. So it's all about just feeling that dough. So to use one of these little gadgets, like I say, we might as well give it a go. little spoon's worth in the middle of the actual mold. Again, half of your mold with the water. Do not go all the way around again. And just fold those together like this. Got to be really careful. Oh, there's a little bit too much in there, but that is why we should just do it properly and not cheat with these devices. But there you go. It is a much easier way to get a very consistent product. But I think you can see that there. I think doing it by hand is a little bit nicer, to be honest. But you know, if you're making loads of them and you want to do it nice and quick, then perhaps the actual mold is good there. Back to you, David. Ready? Oh, he's gone. Shall I just carry on? Oh no, he's there.
No, he's here.
I bored you that much, mate. I'm so sorry.
No, apologies. I wasn't. Don't worry. Okay, so my lecture's got another 3 or 4 minutes, but so basically this is pretty much finished now. So the only thing that obviously is going to be the finishing part is, we move my camera down this way. You can see I've done well, as Ankita calls it, as a blue Peter moment. We in the professional world would call it mise en place, obviously to be ready for the function.
Yes, chef.
So in my bowls here, I've got rice noodles that I have, pre-blanched. Always check the packets of your noodles. Some of them have different timings, etc., etc. These ones I've done for about 6 minutes in some lightly salted water, just to make sure you get some flavour into the noodles, along with some green beans and some bean sprouts. And then obviously once my broth is finished, that will be poured straight on top just to bring everything back into temperature. And I'll finish it with some lovely chopped spring onions, some chopped coriander, and a lime wedge. And then that will be the dish finished. And we will share the photos with yourselves after the class of the finished products. All right.
Wonderful. Really wonderful. Wow. So I'm super impressed. For some of us here, we've been Thermomix owners for a long time. And interesting enough, the dumpling, my husband is Polish, which is why I have an Indian first name and Polish surname. And we're at Christmas time, you're supposed to make mushroom pierogies for Christmas dinner. And in 17 years of marriage, no one ever lets me make it because my dumpling rolling isn't that good, but I might have a chance this year with that. So yeah, thanks for that.
To jump in. I live in a community and we have a Polish vegan couple here, and it's now become traditional that they make the dough and the mix, and then we all together stand around and make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dumplings.
That's awesome.
On Christmas Eve.
Oh, yeah. I love that. That's nice. That's awesome. Shall I finish off the dish then?
Yes, please.
Is everybody ready? Right. Okay. Sorry, I thought you had to do a little bit more to finish that, David. I do apologise. So to finish off, obviously we've got our dumplings nicely put together. Obviously, make as many as you want. If you've got mixture left over, the mixture I would give 2 or 3 days in the fridge. Again, the dough sort of 3 or 4 days. However, all of it will freeze. You can also put them together and they do freeze. Obviously, if you've got a large enough freezer to put them in, I would then recommend putting them in the freezer to freeze down, spread out, and then you can just put them together because obviously otherwise they stick together and that is a no-no. However, to cook them, super simple. It might get a little bit noisy, I'm so sorry. But if I don't, our fire alarm is very sensitive. So just some oil in the bottom of a pan. You can do this in a few ways as well. So you don't have to do this in a pan. You can obviously use our wonderful aroma setting on the Thermomix. So if you wanted to, you could just literally, again with a spray or a little bit of oil on the bottom of the tray and pop the dumplings on top of that and you can steam them. And I would obviously put them on the aroma setting. I would imagine about 15 minutes. I'll be honest, I'm really naughty. I like them fried in a pan. So I have not actually used this to do this. And Ankita told me I didn't have to lie and pretend. So you are
because we had this discussion. I mean, obviously, what's really wonderful, and I'll just let you guys know, David and Richard have actually not met because they've both trained and joined the team remotely. I've not even met Richard face to face, but David is, you know, I want to say an old client of mine who's joined. But we had this pre-class meetup yesterday, and we were saying, yes, of course you can, you know, steam them, but sometimes, you know, it's just down to preference. And we all agreed that we all like fried gyoza rather than steamed. Just a preference.
Feel free, if you want it to be a little bit healthier, you want to steam it, it's not going to do it any harm at all. So I've just put these straight into the oil. You can probably hear it slightly hissing and spitting, which is absolutely delightful. Obviously, be careful. I'm sure we have to say things like that. I just put my hand in the pan, no problem. But as you can see straight away, that dough is starting to semi-fry. What's the Wagamama question? When you buy them at Wagamama, they are fried. Yes, I believe so. They deep fry them though. So we're going to do a little bit of a sort of in between. You can throw these into a deep fat fryer. It will do them absolutely no harm at all. The dough will be fine. But obviously, I know a lot of people at home maybe don't have fryers. So doing them in the pan, all you're going to do is you're going to get the bottom nice and crispy, and then we're going to put a little bit of water in to steam them to finish. To be aware, you can obviously use a little bit of chicken stock if you wanted to. Honestly, I've not got an air fryer. I'm not allowed a fryer. My other half is fabulous, and she lets me have every other piece of equipment in the world. Obviously, my TM6 is my favorite, but the one piece of equipment I'm not allowed in the apartment is a fryer. So I do not know. I'm sorry is the answer. But please give them a go, because it'd be interesting to find out whether it works or not.
And we also have someone saying they boil them. Karen boils
absolutely.
hers.
So you can poach them as well if you wanted to put them into a sort of simmering pan. You don't want it to be, you shouldn't ever, I think this is possibly the same with the pierogies and things, you shouldn't have a really fast boil on any of these sort of items, because obviously the water is far too fast moving and therefore starts to break the items apart. It's much better to have that kind of nice simmer, so that you're just cooking them. They're just at 100 degrees, not too much more. Are we getting some colour now? See, normally I'm really naughty with this. I would just put this on really super hot. I'm trying not to use the extraction, so it's not too noisy for you guys. So it's taking a little bit longer. But you can see we're starting to get a little bit of colour on the bottom of those dumplings there. And you want to take this pretty much as far as you want it to be. I mean, you know, I'm all for a nice little bit of colour, but I don't want them obviously black. You don't want them burnt, but you want a nice amount of kind of sort of caramelization on the bottom of these. Now what we'll do is we'll set the heat up a little bit, and then we're going to put some water on. Now if you want to make these super kind of bougie, you can add a little bit of chicken stock instead, or vegetable stock, instead of just steaming them with water, as I'm going to do. Or obviously if you've got any sort of Asian broth that you've made for something else, you could obviously use that to steam them as well, just to give them that little bit of a zhuzh. But today we're just going to use water.
Richard, we've been asked what's the best oil to use to fry this in.
Honestly, if you wanted to, I would just use vegetable oil. Sesame oil is also nice. The problem is the sesame oil's burning temperature is a little bit lower, so obviously there's a chance of it burning and becoming bitter. I mean, obviously it's nice to keep trying to build up those layers of flavour of the Asian flavours, but I would probably say it's probably a little bit too much. Okay, so that water's just going in now. Now, trick here is just to give it a little bit of a shake, because otherwise the bit of the dumpling that's stuck to the bottom, or it's cooking directly in the bottom, may not get that water underneath, and therefore you end up with black dumplings. Super important, that one. Everything else you can just ignore me, but that honestly, it's the amount of times that I put them in and come back to them and they're black on the bottom. Chef is nodding in agreement there. I like that. So super quick little dressing for these. We're just going to take 3 equal parts. Just super simple dressing. We're going to take 1 part soy sauce, 1 part sesame oil, and 1 part rice wine vinegar. Little sprinkle of best salt in the world, a little molten salt in there, or you can use any salt. I'm just being being pretentious, and a little whisk. And that is just your little Asian dressing there to go on top of the dumplings. Now, 2 ways you can do that. I'm a bit odd. I really like the fact that I actually, when I'm cooking this myself, I will put a little bit of dressing into the pan as it's cooking, just to coat them. Not everyone likes that. So you can just put it on the side. I just feel it's quite harsh. It's quite a high acidity to it because of the soy sauce and the vinegar, but it's completely up to you. So I would just put a little splash in just to coat them all before I put them into the bowl. But again, feel free as you wish. Let's have a look. This is the only bit I couldn't do. Here's one I made earlier moment. We just have to trust it. Any more questions? Just giving it a few more seconds in the pan. Any more questions?
No, everyone seems very happy. I mean, we have some real professionals on here as well, because a lot of people are chefs or caterers and things like that. So Gabriella says she uses rice bran oil, which is also very light.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah.
And I think she was the one who is a cookery teacher as well.
Yeah.
So we can turn you into one, Gabriella. Don't you worry.
You could also use rapeseed oil. It's quite healthy for you as well. Has a high burning temperature. Obviously, yeah, it's got some lovely Kentish rapeseed oil.
So David, you look ready. Are you going to show us the soup?
I can pour one out for you if you want. It's my lunch is going to go cold, but
yeah. No, we're almost done. So if you want to show us, and then you can enjoy, or you just do one. Don't
okay, so also there was actually one tip that I forgot to say actually when I was doing that. So when I took the basket out earlier, I put this into a plate to make sure that I got all the extra juice, because there will be a lot of juice, because from the coriander leaves, that will then start to absorb a lot of the juice. So if you pull it out, put it on a plate on the side, leave that to rest, and then give that a squeeze out, and you've got all that extra lovely flavoured broth in there. So I forgot to mention that earlier, so I'm going to add that back to it. No wastage. Wonderful. So let's get my ladle. Okay. So here we have. I'm just going to literally pour that lovely hot broth straight over my bowl. Now, my other half, she loves the broth, so I make hers very soupy. And then I'm going to just, as I said, finish that. Fresh spring onion. Quickly just give that a little coriander. Fresh coriander. And a lime wedge. And there we have, I'm going to pull this down again. Let's see, can we see that? Ooh, move this out of the way. And then we have our lovely bowl of laksa.
Looks delicious, chef.
Nice and simple. With the Thermomix, as you saw, I did pretty much hardly anything in that, to be honest. The Thermomix did all of it. And that's, as Ankita said, obviously with the Thermomix, especially making pastes and things like that, with this laksa paste, because of the ingredients inside it, you know, it is something you have to, usually if you're doing it in a pan, you have to be tentative by. You wouldn't just leave it because it will catch and burn. So with the Thermomix, obviously constantly stirring it for you makes life so much easier. Just carry on going about your day.
Thank you so much, David. So what we're going to do is we are going to... Yes, please do plate it up, Richard, while I...
Sorry, yes, we've got the final dumplings just there. You're looking for them to kind of start to become a little bit translucent, so you can start to see the mixture in the middle, and you want nice crispy bottom to them. Just straighten a little bowl, so you can either present them really beautifully, or just toss them onto a nice bowl like that. A little garnish on top, some spring onions and some yellow chilies, and a little coriander, just for a little bit of garnish on top of there, just to make them look a little fun, a little sexy. That's what we like. It's that kind of Jamie Oliver era of making everything look pretty, isn't it? And then and obviously serve that with your dipping sauce on the side, like so. And there we go. You've got your chicken gyoza with the dipping sauce. Enjoy.
Wow. Thank you so much. Well, both dishes look amazing. And I just wanted to say to you, I mean, boys chefs, considering this was your first class, you guys did really, really well. I'm super impressed. I might have to pull you into another class more regularly. I can see a lot of smiles and happy faces from the customers who have got their cameras on in front of me. What we're going to do is they're going to photograph them, and I will tag both Richard and David with their Instagram accounts from my account, One Girl in the Mix. And then later on this afternoon, when I have both recipes, I will send that, because I have everyone's email address who registered. I will send those out to you this afternoon or early evening. I'm just about to get in the car and drive to Kent to see my daughter who's in boarding school. So I will do that. I hope you've enjoyed the class. We have we have 2 more classes this month, just so you know. We have a Polish class tomorrow for any of our Polish speaking clients. And next Sunday at 11 o'clock, we have an Easter class with obviously Easter recipes. So you can find, I'll add those links into my follow-up as well. But really, I hope you have enjoyed the class, been able to see how we can, you know, move away from just cookie dough and guided recipes and use manual cooking to the very best. And what better way from professional chefs who, I know they're using cookie dough now, but you know, they've been using Thermomix for years without cookie dough, and it's really, really great to see that. If anyone is interested in perhaps upgrading, I know a lot of people said they were already TM6 users, but if anyone is interested in upgrading to a TM6, we have a 0% finance offer for your friends or family members. And also we are still actively recruiting. So do let me know or go back to your advisor. But presumably if you are a team customer, so rather than one of mine, all recruitment forms come to me anyway, so I'll attach you to your advisor. And if you don't have an advisor or a loan customer, I can obviously put you in touch with either Richard or David as well. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, so your first class. So nice to see you, Marie. Thank you. We have lots more, so I hope you enjoy them. No questions? Okay, well, have a wonderful Saturday afternoon and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I hopefully will see some of you at another class really soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.